Welcome to Not My Reality. We're going to go in a Wayback Machine for this one again. On September 18, 1970, American musician Jimi Hendrix, he died in London at the age of 27. One of the 60s most influential guitar players, he was described by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as arguably the greatest instrumentalist in the history of rock music. Alright, slow down there, but he was very talented, but a little sloppy. In the days before his death, Hendrix had been in poor health, in part from fatigue caused by overwork, a chronic lack of sleep, and an assumed influenza-related illness. And also he had insecurities about his personal relationships, as well as his disillusionment with the music industry. He didn't want to go down the belly of the beast. It contributed to the frustration he was feeling. Although the details of his final hours and his death, they are disputed, Hendrix spent much of his last day alive with Monica Donovan. In the morning hours of September 18th, Donovan found Hendrix unresponsive in her apartment. She called for an ambulance at 11:18 a.m. and Hendrix was taken to St. Mary Abbott's Hospital, where an attempt was made to resuscitate him. It didn't work though. He was pronounced dead at 12:45 p.m. The official cause of death was asphyxia due to aspiration of vomit. That's the urban legend we all heard for so many years, which was contributed to by said barbiturate intoxication. But we're not sure that's really what happened. Let's take a look into it. Let's take a look into who had motive, who had opportunity, who could have killed the guitar player, Jimi Hendrix. A parody. If you don't have a sense of humor, go. Welcome. Is this my reality? Is this your reality? Support the channel, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell. Otherwise, I might tell Kevin Spacey you got some dirt on him. Just saying. The manager. Who was the manager for Jimi Hendrix? Michael Jeffrey. Now, before becoming Jimi Hendrix's manager, Michael Jeffrey, he'd been a covert op for British intelligence. Of course he was. According to one of his original clients, Eric Borden of the Animals, Jeffrey often boasted of his 007 escapades during the Cold War, staging assassinations in Greece, torturing KGB agents, blowing up Russian-Egyptian bases in the Suez. The Animal singer, Jimmy's future close friend, took these stories as drunken tall tales until early one morning. The former MI6 agent invited him out to the London harbor where the US 7th Fleet happened to be trolling for some lost nukes. Yeah, we lose nukes. I don't understand that. I lose my keys, I go nuts. I lose my phone, I go nuts. But the United States, we seem to be able to lose nukes and not have a problem. Anyway, his manager, Michael Jeffrey, emerged from the water in scuba gear, holding a black box, pointing out to the Armada. But the ex-spy pulled the switch. Suddenly the harbor was rocked with underwater explosions. Quote, like most people of felonious intent, Berdone wrote in his memoir, he was charming, attractive, and sometimes a riot to be around. Jeffrey had made the transition from demolition and espionage and assassinations to rock and roll by studying under the Al Capone of pop himself, Don Arden, also known as the English Godfather. Arden, who is also Sharon Osbourne's father, went on to manage the Small Faces, Electric Light Orchestra, and Black Sabbath. And Jeffrey was known for his old-fashioned business methods. Bribery, blackmail, if you didn't go for those, he'd assault you and he'd kidnap you. In the fall of 1966, Animals bassist Chas Chandler, he discovered Jimi Hendrix in New York. He flew him to London and he introduced him to Jeffrey. Good move. The two co-managed the guitarist and helped him assemble The Experience, his band. Several years later, Chas and Jimmy, they became estranged due to creative differences. The windows of opportunity were there for Jeffrey to scoop it all up. I knew that something dodgy was going to happen, but I never dreamt it would lead to Jimmy's death. In his memoir, bassist Noel Redding described Jeffrey's fondness for guns, throwing knives, electronic bugging devices, and roadie spies. As for his financial skills, to discourage frivolous audits, the ex-spy kept all his business records in Russian. Jeffrey toured Jimi and the Experience relentlessly after Apotheosis at Monterey Pop in 1967. By 1969, the guitar player was earning $100,000 per gig, but was too exhausted and drugged out to realize that he was virtually broke while Jeffrey was a multimillionaire with offshore numbered bank accounts. At last, burnout on touring, Jimi told his manager Jeffrey he was disbanding the Experience. No sooner did he reveal his intention than he was busted for heroin possession in Toronto. Jimi came to suspect that Jeffrey, desperate that he might lose his cash cow, had engineered the bust so Jimi, would be forced to keep the Experience alive to pay for his legal expenses. 4 months later, just after Woodstock, Hendrix was kidnapped at gunpoint. He was held hostage for 7 days, then, quote, rescued in a dramatic shootout at his Woodstock compound. Soon, Jimi came to suspect that his manager, Jeffrey, was behind this intimidation too. Still refusing to surrender to Jeffrey and revive his golden goose, the Experience, Jimi formed the band The Gypsies. In their premier Madison Square Garden gig in January 1970, Jimi collapsed on stage after only a few songs. Buddy Miles insisted he'd seen Jeffrey slip him 2 tabs of bad acid. He didn't want Jimi playing in an all-black band, the Gypsies drummer declared. One of the biggest reasons why Jimi is dead is because of that guy. Later that summer, Hendrix escaped New York for London, telling his friend and future biographer, Sharon Lawrence, "Lately, I've been thinking that I'm circled by wolves." By this time, he was terrified of Jeffrey. The star was in secret negotiations with Miles Davis's manager, Alan Douglas. Hearing through one of his informants in Jimi's entourage of the possible defection, Jeffrey accused Douglas of trying to steal my artist. After his Isle of Wight performance, Jimi lay low in London trying to avoid Jeffrey, he followed him there. Meanwhile, he finalized a new management deal with Douglas. On the morning of September 17th, Douglas phoned Hendrix's New York lawyers, informing them that he would be relieving Jeffrey of his management duties, meaning not only would Jeffrey lose his cash cow, his nemesis Douglas would be taking over. This would mean not only did Douglas take over Hendrix's career, but he would get to see the books that would prove that Jeffrey had embezzled tons of millions of dollars from Hendrix and mismanaged him over the years, meaning the end of not only Jeffrey's career, but his probably life being free. He was going to go to jail for this. And the very next morning, an ambulance was called to the hotel where Hendrix was staying with his girlfriend Monica Donovan. The paramedics, they found the door open, no one in the flat, and Jimi's body on the bed covered in vomit. Dr. John Bannister, the physician on duty at St. Mary's Abbott's Hospital when the ambulance arrived, later testified, quote, Jimi Hendrix had been dead for some time. Red wine was coming out of his nose and out of his mouth. It was horrific. He described how he tried to clear the singer's windpipe with an 18-inch metal sucker, but finally gave up due to the inexhaustible amount of liquid. Now think about that for a second. Someone apparently poured red wine down Jimi's throat to intentionally cause asphyxiation after first causing barbiturate intoxication, Dr. Bannister concluded. Without the ability to cough, he was easily drowned. Now, here's a kicker. Waterboarding and forced ingestion, they were commonly used by M16 and other intelligence agencies during the Cold War. It was a preferred interrogation or assassination technique since it left no marks on the body. Here we go. Listen to this. Almost no alcohol was found in Hendrix's blood. Moreover, friends stated that he didn't drink red wine. The coroner, Dr. Gavin Thurlson, listed the cause of death as inhalation of vomit following barbiturate intoxication. And we've all heard that. We've heard it a million times. He choked to death on his puke. As for the cause of this fatal condition itself, the pathologist left an open verdict. Within hours of Jimmy's death, all his hotel rooms and crash pads in London, as well as everything in New York, were turned over. His clothes, instruments, writings, his drugs, everything vanished. The investigation was not launched until 23 years later, when all the evidence was long gone. His former bandmate, Noel Redding, who died all but penniless in 2003, which is a freaking shame, but it's another story. He wrote that murder was, quote, a distinct possibility. In his 2009 title, Rock Roadie, James Wright wrote that Jeffrey, his employer at the time, confessed to the murder in 1971. Jeffrey said that son of a bitch was going to leave me. And then he said, if I lost him, I'd lose everything. Instead, he gained a fortune. His management contract was renewed by default. He reaped the immense profits of post-death record sales. And he collected on a $2 million insurance policy, which he had taken out on Hendrix. Michael Jeffrey reportedly perished in a mysterious plane crash over France in 1973. But Jeffrey's remains, they were never found. Now, Eric Burden, Noel Redding, and others believe he may have checked his luggage, but then slipped away during the boarding process. Jeffrey was due in London court the very next day to defend himself in several huge lawsuits relating to his embezzlement, money laundering, and fraud, and probably murder for the murder of Jimi Hendrix. Did the great guitar player Jimi Hendrix die of an overdose? Did he just take too many pills and choke to death on his own vomit? That's what we've been told for years. Or was he murdered? Was his manager ripping him off for years? Was his manager ex-British secret ops? He knew how to do these things. And was he afraid his money train was going to run out and he needed to keep the cash train running? I got to be honest, that's what I think. I think this Michael Jeffrey guy, I think he committed the ultimate crime. I think he took Jimi Hendrix out. He figured out a way to get $2 million in insurance. He got all the royalty money. Then he D.B. Coopered himself, tried to get on a plane, didn't get on the plane, and now he's living somewhere like Hitler did after World War II, probably in Argentina. And we're deprived of Jimi Hendrix. What say you? What do you think? Leave a comment down below. Let's get the fuck out of here. Anybody got any acid? Just curious. Peace.